Hey, I'm James. Welcome to Game Stories, where we write games that tell stories, and today we are talking about dynamic character variables. And by that, I just mean that we're going to use some variables to describe characters, and then those variables are going to change over the course of the game, depending on player decisions, which means that the characters are going to change over the course of the game based on player decisions. And we're going to look at three different models for how to implement this kind of thing in video games. We're going to look at how Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic did this and games like that. And we're going to look at how Dragon Age Inquisition used something similar to do their sort of approval, follower approval system. And we're also going to look back again at 80 Days, at how they implemented it, and they use a system that is similar to how the Mass Effect series did the same thing. So 3 different models, we'll kind of mess around with them, see how they work, and then of course the assignment will be, I'll turn you loose to go play with these systems and see what you can make. Okay, so first let me just show you a quick thing that I put together just to show how variables can change. It's really simple. It's really simple to change a numeric variable. I've made kind of like a leveling up system here. So we've got, you're a great hero, the monster's afraid of you, and the monster power is low, your power is high. You fight the monster and you gain an extra power. Now your power is 19. It was 18, you fought the monster and leveled up, and now it's 19. So the way that works is, oh, I put a combat system in here, which is doesn't really matter. So if you beat the monster, if your power is bigger than the monster power, then this happens. And one of the things that happens here is we get this little line of code. It says set power to power plus 1. Set power to power plus 1. Means take whatever this value is and set it to that value plus 1 more. And then when I print it out here as power, it prints out the new value. I could change this to plus 45, and then we're going to be much more powerful when we play this again, right? We're going to defeat the monster, starting out at 18, fight the monster. Whoa, now we're level 63. All right, so it's really just simple math, addition and subtraction stuff that we're doing to these variables. So I don't like math either, but this is not too hard. Oh dear, oh dear. So let me just show you that again. It really is just set the variable to itself plus whatever it is you want, or minus whatever it is you want. Okay, with that in mind, let's just take a little peek at some images from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This is a little image somebody put together of screenshots. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is a Star Wars video game. You play a Force user, and at the beginning of the game, you're kind of a neutral Force user. You're not a light side Jedi, you're not a dark side Sith. You're just sort of a person who can use the Force. And over the course of the game, you have choices that give you Force points or take away Force points. So if you do something good and friendly and kind, for example, or you help somebody out or you save someone, you're going to be given Force points, and you'll go up the scale towards the light side until you're a wonderful Jedi with lots of cool Force powers. If you do something mean or murderous or sneaky or conniving or something, then they'll take Force points away and you'll go down the Force scale. That doesn't mean you're less powerful, it just means you're more dark side, right? There's a scale here from 0 to 100, with 100 being the most powerful light side Jedi and 0 being the most powerful dark side Jedi. So when I'm saying give and take away, it just really means you're moving up and down the scale. So when you gain points, you go up to the light side. When you lose points, you go down to the dark side. And depending on what you're trying to do, you may be making choices trying to lose as many points as possible so you can be a powerful Sith. Right, okay, so how do you do that? How do you make something like that work? Back to Twine. So I've got it implemented here. And I'll show you, I'll just read through this and then I'll show you what's behind the scenes. It says, you're alone in the subway car with an old man. He's asleep. Before nodding off, he told you he was getting off at the next stop. The train is pulling into the station. His wallet is hanging out of his pocket almost like he wants you to take it, like it wants you to take it. And we have the choice to wake up the old man or to steal his wallet. So I think you can see what I'm trying to go for here. If you wake up the old man, that's a nice thing to do. If you steal his wallet, it's not so nice. So let's steal the wallet. Well, you got some money now, and the old man is still asleep 2 stops later when you get off and head home. On the way home, you see your friend Tina. She's throwing bits of rubble at cars down on the freeway. Come on, she says, let's try to hit one. Tell her, sure, why not? Throw cars at the freeway. Or tell her no thanks, or tell her to stop. Well, it's probably not a good idea to throw rocks at cars, but let's keep on with this trend of doing the wrong thing and see what happens. You throw a big rock at the freeway and it hits a car, cracking the windshield like a big spider web. Tina chuckles. See you later, you say, and you get back home. You walk up 3 flights and open the door to your dad's apartment. He's home and he looks mad. He just shakes his head and turns away. That's as much of the story as I've got written so far. I'll show you what's at work behind the scenes here. Basically, we're just looking at these passages right here. There's 2 choices that branch and fold back immediately. There's a choice to steal the guy's wallet or not. There's the choice to throw rocks or not. And as we're going through these passages, through these choices, you're either going up the good-bad scale or you're going down the good-bad scale. And if you're up high enough, depending on where you are on the scale, Dad's either going to be angry or worried or happy to see you. So basically, you're sort of, in your choices, you're kind of picking the kind of kid you want to play. And then when you get home, Dad maybe doesn't know the specifics of what you're up to, but he has a feeling about you. He knows you and he knows what you're up to. And he's responding to that, right? So you get a kind of dad the kind of based on the decisions you made. Now, there could be all kinds of other consequences later in the story. If this were going to be a bigger story, there could be, if you're really good, then you get opportunities to volunteer or something. And if you're really bad, then you get arrested. Who knows, right? Different kinds of, or you could get opportunities to do bigger crimes, the more bad stuff you do. Yeah, but what's the technical side of this? So it's just one variable called good bad. And at the beginning of the game, I've set it to 5, which means in my head, it's going to max out at 10 and bottom out at 0, because I'm not anticipating a very big game. If I were going to make a really big game like Knights of the Old Republic with lots of choices and lots of interactions and lots of gameplay, then I might want a bigger scale like they have, 1 to 100, and they start at 50. So there's a lot of ways to go up, a lot of ways to go down. Here, I'm just modeling a couple choices, so I start at 5, right in the middle of whatever the scale is. And just one thing, good, bad. So good, bad is 5. And if you wake the guy up, it does set good, bad to good, bad plus 1. Just like we did when we were leveling up the power of the fighter in the last thing, it's the same code. Set good, bad to good, bad plus 1. And on the other side, if you steal, it sets good, bad to good, bad minus 1. So if we go this way, we went to 5 to 4, right? We went down 1. And if we did the good thing, then we went from 5 to 6. We're doing a couple points better, 1 point better. Then there's the opportunity, this is sort of choice you make here about how you're going to respond to your friend Tina. And no code is happening here because no consequences are happening yet, right? Just the choices are here. But we have 3 choices instead of 2. It's not binary in this case. We can either say, yeah, throw rocks, and that's going to be the one that I say is bad. We can say no thanks, or we can tell her to stop. So in like Knights of the Old Republic and other games, usually this last one is kind of the one that's coded as good, right? To intervene and stop evil, that's the goal. But this is also your friend, so maybe if you tell her to stop, there could be social consequences to that too, right? But in any case, for right now, what we're going to do is say, this is the good thing, tell her to stop. This is the bad thing, throwing rocks. And this is just sort of a neutral thing. This is not going to affect your score either way. Just sort of skating through. You didn't stop the bad thing, but you also didn't do it, so you're not gaining or losing any points, right? So I can just show you. It's if you say yes and throw rocks, it's the same code again. Good, bad to good, bad minus 1. If you say no thanks and you just walk on by, no code at all. Don't need it because you're not changing the variable. And if you tell her to stop, then it goes good, bad to good, bad plus 1 because you did a good thing, in theory, right? You did something good, and it goes up. So by the time you get to dad, you've had 2 opportunities to either go up or go down. So you could be right at 5 because you went up and then down. You could be at 7 because you went up twice. You could be at below 5 twice, which would be 3. Or you could be at 4 because you went up 1 and then you said no thanks. Or you could be at 5, right? So that's the range of possibilities that we've got so far for the good-bad scale. So when we're testing, we need a series of if statements from dad. And I just made it kind of simple. I just said if you're right in the middle, one thing will happen. If you're exactly at 5, if good-bad is 5, something happens. If it's more than 5, something else happens. And if it's less than 5, something else again happens. So if good bad is above 5, that means I did at least one good thing and no bad things, right? And so dad will be happy to see me, ask me about my day. If it's exactly 5, meaning I did a good thing and a bad thing, then he's distressed. He'll say, I'm worried about you. Is everything okay? He's not sure what's up with me. I'm kind of on the fence. He knows I'm sometimes screw up, but so he hopes I don't go too far to the bad side. But if I stole the wallet and I threw rocks, then I'm just kind of an out-and-out troublemaking kid, and he's just mad. He shakes his head and turns away. So these sort of nested if statements, they're not nested, but it's a series of if statements is what you use to test for something like this. And if we had a wider scale, then we could test a lot more increments of it. We could say, if it's 3, 4, or 5, it's one thing, and if it's 6, 7, 8, it's something else, and if it's 9, 10, 11, it's something else. But for now, just because there were just a few choices, I could say if it's exactly 5, more than 5, less than 5. Dad's gonna be happy, sad, or worried. Okay? I can play through it one more time real quick just to show you what it looks like. Let's see if we can make him worried. So we will wake up the old man and get a good point. He says thanks. So we woke him up, but now we'll throw some rocks. Throw in a rock. And now he says he looks distressed. I'm worried about you. He says, is everything okay? So you can see now I've sort of chosen to be this kind of kid who's sometimes does the right thing, sometimes screws up. And dad knows that about me, so he's kind of worried about which way I'm going to go ultimately. Okay. All right. And again, I can have other kinds of consequences develop from this. Like if you're playing Knights of the Old Republic, you'll see that it's not just one person's opinion that you're changing, not just like dad or whoever's opinion of you. It's also kind of the whole world shifts around where you're at in this light and dark side thing. You're able to do different kinds of things. You're able to unlock different kinds of stories. You're able to hang out with different kinds of people. So if you're evil, then you hang out with bad people and do bad things, right? And if you're good, you hang out with good people and do good things. What that also means, though, is that your game is making moral judgments about player behavior, right? Your game is giving players a set of choices, and then it's kind of morally evaluating those choices and creating consequences for them. And it has the scale of good and evil, and it's sort of deciding for you what good and evil are and what kinds of things ought to happen to people who do those things, right? What kinds of consequences ought to follow or naturally follow from doing bad things or doing good things or doing a mix of both. So all of a sudden your game is implicated in, this becomes part of the meaning of your game. The way that you structure the moral universe that players exist in your game world is part of the meaning of your game, even if it's not really the point of the game or the main mechanic or anything. It still becomes an important feature of how players make sense of their experience in the world, right? So we should know that good-bad is not the only way of thinking about things, or, there are different kinds of moral systems that would evaluate these choices differently. For example, let's say that dad is a different kind of dad. Let's say that instead of wanting us to do the right thing all the time, he's more like a crimey kind of guy. Like he's got sort of a practical, self-interested view of the world that he wants to pass on to us. And he's not so much thinking about good and bad, he's thinking about smart and stupid. That's kind of how he thinks about the world, right? So the moral universe of this game world isn't going to be good and bad, it's going to be smart, stupid. Meaning, if you can come up in the world, if you can get some kind of gain and not get any consequences, do it. That's smart. If you're going to do something that brings you a lot of trouble for no reason, even if it's to help somebody out, that's stupid. Don't do it, right? So let's relook through these choices as if we're not worried about good, bad, we're worried about smart, stupid. Okay, so we're going to change this just to help us think. Doesn't really matter what you call it, but it'll make more sense to me if I call this smart, stupid. So now that's what the game is measuring, okay? Whether I've been smart, whether I've been stupid. So if I wake this guy up, no, let's start with the other way. If I steal the guy's wallet, it's going to change my smart, stupid to +1. Because stealing the guy's wallet, in this case, is smart. No one else is on the train car. He's asleep. He's never going to know. That's free money for you. You should take it. Now you're thinking smart, right? Whereas if you wake him up, that's going to change smart, stupid. It's going to go down 1. You could have had free money and you just let it go. That's stupid. What do you care about that guy for, right? When you're heading home, you're making a choice. We're not going to do anything here because there's no consequences yet. Again, the same, right? But I think this moral universe would evaluate these choices differently too, right? I think they would agree on throwing rocks. Throwing rocks is stupid. You're not getting anything out of throwing rocks. You're just going to bring the police to the neighborhood and maybe get some heat on you, and for nothing, just for nothing. So why would you do that, right? That's stupid. Don't do that. So when we go to throw rocks, we're going to set smart, stupid to smart, stupid -1. Keep that the same. But what about this other choice? What about saying no thanks or telling her to stop? Well, telling her to stop is sort of a mix of things, right? On one hand, you're creating problems in your friendship in ways that might come back to bite you. For what? For no reason. What are you getting out of that? Nothing. So that's kind of stupid. On the other hand, you're kind of looking out for your friend. You're telling her that she's being stupid and she should stop doing what she's doing so that she doesn't take unnecessary police attention, right? So you're kind of looking out for your friend and for your neighborhood. So it's a little bit smart, but you're also creating problems for yourself, so it's a little bit dumb. So we're going to leave that one as neutral, right? It's kind of good, kind of bad. You're not going to get any credit for it there either way. Saying no thanks, then, is the smart move. It doesn't get trouble with the cops. It doesn't get trouble with your friends. It just leaves everything as it is, and you get the benefit of not having rocked the boat, right? So we're going to say that when you tell her no thanks, we're going to set smart, stupid to smart, stupid +1. Smart move, kid. Just keep walking. And in this case, nothing, right? Because telling your friend to stop, telling her she's being dumb and bringing unnecessary police attention to the neighborhood, that's good. But, making an enemy out of Tina, obviously not a thing you want to do, right? It's a little bit dumb. And then when we measure this with Dad, we probably want to kind of have a rewrite here, meaning if Dad's a different kind of dad and he buys into this moral world and he's sort of our first encounter with how the world is going to start to respond to our choices, and it's sort of an unusual moral system, then we probably want to, oh dear, what do I need here? I need that. we probably want to kind of give players some pretty clear feedback about how their choices are being evaluated. So, you know, if we're super smart, then he might give us a little speech about, hey kid, I like you, you're smart, you know to keep your nose out of trouble, but you know, take what you can get when you can, right? And if we're in the middle, he might say, I'm worried about you, you seem like you don't know what to do. Here's the deal, you know, take what you can get when you can get it, but keep your nose out of trouble, right? And then if we're stupid, he just must be like, oh man, you know, I can't use you, kid. I got no time for you. You need to learn. And then he gives you the moral code again. That's kind of how I think I would rewrite this. I'd have to play around with it to see. But whatever it is, you want to give clear feedback to the player that their moral decisions are taking place in a universe that doesn't care so much about good, bad, as it does about, you know, this kind of weird code of, can I get ahead or not? Am I looking out for myself and my family and my neighborhood or not? Regardless of what the law has to say, regardless of what, you know, sort of the normal good conduct would be. So again, I'm not necessarily advocating for this kind of morality. I'm just saying that you can shape games with different kinds of morality, right? So that evaluate player choices differently. And in doing so, even if you just kind of use a default sense of what good and evil might be, your game still carries a certain ideological freight. It still makes an argument. It still says these things are good and bad, and these are the kinds of consequences that happen when you do good and bad things, right? Or these are the things that are smart and stupid, and these are the kinds of consequences you get when you do smart and stupid things, okay? So just as you're using a system like this, think about the way you're doing it. Think about what kinds of choices am I framing, how am I framing them, and what kinds of responses am I putting in the world as a result. Okay, that's enough of that one. Let's go look at Dragon Age. Boop. So Dragon Age Inquisition is like a fantasy role-playing game. It's a digital one, where you're running around the world and going on big quests, and you have friends that go with you, right? Friends that you can even become like romantic partners with, or can become enemies with. And there's lots of kinds of stories that can develop depending on whether or not your friends, your followers, approve of you or disapprove of you. It's a pretty interesting system. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is sort of a screenshot from a game developers conference talk that was given by these two guys. One of them who was largely responsible for the story content of the game, and one who was largely responsible for the game systems in the game. And they are giving this talk about how they kind of integrated system and story in different ways as they were developing Dragon Age Inquisition. I recommend the full talk to think about how these kinds of issues play out in a big AAA title with millions of dollars in budget and stuff like that. But for right now, all we really care about is this crude little drawing that they made. This was their first draft of how the approval system was going to work in their game. And you can see it's basically like the light side, dark side thing, except for it's tilted sideways, right? There's, well, I guess you start at 0 and you can go from to negative 100 into positive 100. So the scale's a little bit different. But this is basically dark side and this is basically light side, except that the bar is not located in your player character or in the world that believes these things or is structured this way. It's located in your followers. So each character that follows you around or that is associated with you is going to have one of these bars, and it's going to go up or down based on whether or not they approve of what you're doing. So you might have, for example, you might have a dwarf that follows you around, and maybe he's kind of like the second dad from the other game that we just showed, right? Maybe he says, get what you can and don't get caught, and that's fine. So if you do smart things, he approves. If you do stupid things, he doesn't approve. But you also have like an elf buddy, and the elf is like the first version of that dad who says, you should always do good things even when no one's looking, right? So the elf will approve when you do good things, morally absolutely good things, and will disapprove when you do things that elf feels are absolutely not good, right? And so their scales will go up and down at different times. For example, if they were following you around and you stole some guy's wallet on the train, Elf would say, that's bad. It's always bad to do that, even if no one can catch you. And Dwarf would say, no, that was good. That was smart. You could get something and not get caught. And then if you went and threw rocks at the freeway, Elf would say, that was really a bad thing to do. It's against the law and it's not kind. And Dwarf would say, that was really a dumb thing to do. So they would kind of agree here. They would both disapprove of that, even though for different reasons, right? So I kind of like this system, in part because it provides pretty dynamic non-player characters, meaning you can put this system into a host of non-player characters in your world and then have a bunch of people responding differently to you in different ways. They're not just responding to, are you light side, are you dark side, are you good or are you bad? They're responding to, how do I feel about the things you've done? You know, some things that you did I might not care about at all, but the next person might care about a lot because our personalities are different, right? So I think it's kind of cool to play with. I'll show you how I've set it up here. And I've kind of put in some new systems, or so I'm using a little bit of new code here that I'll explain as I go. Okay, so it's these passages here that do the approval rating thing, and I basically just structured one choice like this because it's a little bit intensive. Let's play through it, and then we'll come back and look behind the scenes. So it says, you, Tina, and Joe are hanging out by the tracks. Tina is bored and wants to start trouble. Joe is in love, probably. She wants to go to the park and watch Lisa skate. You find a sleeping bag and an empty bottle tucked behind a wall. And I got a choice here. I can take the bottle and pretend to drink it. I can tease Joe about Lisa, maybe making a joke about the sleeping bag. Or I can throw the bottle at the tracks and say, let's go to the park. And right now it's telling me where I stand with each of them. I'm just taking like the little system from here. You know, neutral, cool, hostile, neutral, warm, friendly. Right now they're both neutral with me. So I kind of want to make them like me. So if I do this, if I take the bottle and pretend to drink it, it goes like this. You grab the bottle and pretend to take a swig, then stumble around like you're drunk. Lisa and Joe chuckle. Let's go to the park, says Joe. So you do. And they both approve, ding, ding. And now they both feel warmly toward me, right? Whereas if I tease Joe about Lisa, this must be where Lisa slept last night, you say, pointing at the sleeping bag. Tina cracks up laughing. Joe hits you on the shoulder hard. Shut up, she says, and storms off toward the park. You and Tina follow, giggling. So Tina liked that. She thought it was funny. Joe did not like that or hurt her feelings. She didn't like me right now. And so she's drifted down to cool, whereas Tina went up to warm from neutral, right? Final choice, if I throw the bottle at the tracks, say, let's go to the park. Let's go to the park. Joe is all smiles. She wants to go there anyway. She wants to go see Lisa, so that's exciting for her. And Tina rolls her eyes but says okay because she's like, boring. That's not the kind of trouble I want to get into. Park is boring. So Joe gives me an approval and Tina minuses an approval. So the reverse effect, right? One is warm, one is cool. How does that pay off? Well, when I go to the park, the way I've got it set up is that characters who are warm toward me, or who have, a certain level of approval of me, will offer me choices to hang out with them. And players that are cool toward me will not. They will just be like, whatever, I'm out of here. So when I go to the park now, Joe is going to say, let's hang out, and Tina is not. Tina's going to say, I'm out of here. At the park, Lisa is practicing her kickflip. Joe sits down to watch. Tina scans the park looking for anything else to do. Joe says, come on, and asks you to sit by her. Tina wanders off without you later. You can always decide to split and go home, and their approval rating sort of stayed the same here because I didn't make another choice. But after this choice, some kind of approval rating should change too. And again, if I go back, and if they both like me, if they're both happy, and we go to the park, then I have three choices. Joe, I can hang out with Joe to watch Lisa do kickflips. Or I can go with Tina. Tina sees a human statue on the other side of the park. Come on, she says, let's go mess with them. You can always decide to split. Okay, so we have a system here where the two non-player characters are responding to my choices, and they're either liking me more or liking me less, depending on the things that I do. And then based on that, They're either offering me story opportunities to do something, or they're not, right? So this is kind of a basic implementation of the Dragon Age thing, right? Follower approval. How does it work? How did we do that? Let's take a look. Now we started with the last thing with one variable, good, bad, or smart, stupid. This time we need two variables because we have two non-player characters. If we have more characters, we need a variable for each of them, right? If we have 20 characters, we need 20 variables that measure their approval of what I'm doing. So I've got Tina app set to 5 and Joe app set to 5. Again, if this were a bigger game, like Dragon Age, I might want to start at 0 and then think if numbers are how negative they are or how positive they are, right? But right now, I'm just starting at 5 and going up and down between 0 and 10. And this is some new code. I'm not going to show you that just yet, but that's a new feature that's going to bring code into the game, right? So I've got the thing, and if I tease them, Tina approval is going up, and Joe, or no, this is not teasing. This is if I make a joke about being drunk, right? They both think that's funny, so both of these variables go up by 1. I've set Tina app to it plus 1. Oh, notice I also used the word it instead of using Tina app again. I could do this. Nope. So this is how I was phrasing it in the last example with the Knights of the Old Republic stuff, right? It was set good bad to good bad plus 1. Now, when I say set something to it plus 1, it's essentially doing the same thing. When it sees it just says, all right, what was the last variable you named? That's what it is. And so it's exactly the same as saying set Tina app to Tina app plus 1. Set Tina app to it plus 1 is the same. It's just that it is a little bit easier to type when you're having to type variables over and over and over again. So I made the choice that made them both laugh, so they both approved of me more, and I cranked them both up by 1. But you know, if I made the thing that made Joe angry, I teased her, made Tina happy, so hers went up 1, but Joe's went down 1. And the opposite here, if I threw the bottle and Joe was happy to go to the park, hers went up 1, and Tina's went down 1 because I thought, you know, she'd be bored with that choice. Then at the park, I'm testing for how high those levels are, right? And then I'm changing the results based on that. I'm doing this in a pretty simple way, which is just like, is it more than 5 or not, right? So if Joe app is better than 5, meaning I made a choice. I've only made one choice so far in this game, right? And so it started at 5. Is it up or is it down? If it's up, then Joe gives me this choice. Joe says, come on, and asks you to sit by her, right? All of that is inside these two brackets right here. Let's just make that clear. This whole line and this choice is inside this set of brackets. So if greater than 5, Joe's approval has gone up from 5, then she gives me this link, basically. Otherwise, she gives me this text. She gives me the cold shoulder. You can tell she doesn't want you around. And the same thing down here with Tina. I've got, if Tina app is positive, if it's more than 5, then everything between, oh, weird. Oh, no. There, yeah. Everything between these two brackets, this one and this one, will happen, which is she gives me this choice to go mess around with the human statue guy with her. Otherwise, Tina wanders off without you later. So the game is setting a variable for their approval, it's changing that variable in different ways based on what you do, and then it's testing for it and giving you either opportunities to further that relationship with that character, or it's cutting that off, right? And then this happens no matter what. You can always kind of bail and go home instead of hanging out with either of them, if that's what you want to do. Okay, now, The new piece that I'm doing here is this little macro called display. And I'll show you what that means. You'll notice that when I play the game, down here it's displaying the level of their approval of me, right? It's saying neutral, and then when I do something to change that, it updates it. Now it's warm, right? Or it's cool. That's what's happening with this display macro. What display just means take this passage, whatever is in this quote that matches this, and put it right here. Put whatever that passage says and put it right here in the text. So it's taking, I have a separate passage that's not linked to anything, but it's called app meter, like approval meter. And every time I say display app meter, the program, Twine, is finding that passage, taking everything that's in that passage and putting it into this passage or the next passage, right? Because I have that in everywhere I go, display app meter, right? And then in the park, display app meter. So you're always getting feedback about where these variables are at any given time. You're not getting number feedback, you're getting quality feedback. Warm, neutral, cool, angry, whatever. And here's that little passage, app meter, right? So let's see what it does. It just does code. So when it says display app meter, it's saying grab that code, run that code right here, and then show the results. So I've got how to translate the numbers of Joe's approval and Tina's approval into text. That's all this is really doing. I could just say Joe's approval 5, Tina's approval 4. And that would be fine. That would be feedback too. But I wanted to use the words to give it a different, more emotional feel. You know, Tina's approval warm has a different kind of feel to it than Tina's approval 6, right? So if Joe app is 5, set Joe feel. I've got a new variable called Joe feel, which just means the word that you're going to use to describe this. If Joe app is 5, set Joe feel to neutral. If Joe app is greater than 5, set Joe feel to warm. And if Joe app is less than 5, set Joe feel to cool. So if it goes up, anything above the middle is going to be warm. Anything below the middle is going to be cool. Now, if I wanted to make this, have more levels than that, then I would need to say more. But for right now, this is good. If Tina app is then basically the same thing for Tina approval. When Tina approval is exactly 5, it's neutral. When Tina approval is greater than 5, it's warm. Less than 5 is cool. Okay. And then right here, I've got the readout. So Joe approval, Joe feel. Tina approval, Tina feel. So it's going to do a little bit of translating numbers into words, and then it's going to display that word so the players can get the feedback of, like, how good am I doing with this character right now? You may have noticed that I have this right here, BR. That is HTML code for line break. You may also notice that I've got these squiggly brackets cutting off the whole thing. That's because if I got rid of them, it would put a bunch of white space in the game. We'll put all these returns would mean that there would be like 1, 2, there'd be like 7, 8 lines of white space before this stuff showed up. I don't want that to happen, so I put it in these brackets that turn everything blue, and then it just tells the computer erase all that white space. But when it erases all that white space, if I don't have this, then these print out like that. They print out like right on top of each other. So I need to tell the computer, put a line break right here, and I do that with the HTML code BR. Okay, I think I explained everything there, right? I've got app meter is just translating numbers into words and then displaying the words so that you kind of get a feel of where you stand with these characters. So, see that work again? Right here, they're both set to 5, right? So at the beginning, when it displays, when it displays, it's saying those things are 5, yep, then they are neutral. And when they make a change, more than 5, yep, warm. Or less than 5, okay, cool. So when we play it, Joe approval neutral, Tina approval neutral, smash the bottle or pretend to drink the bottle, warm, warm, because they both went up 1, right? I don't even necessarily have to give this feedback if I'm giving this feedback, right? I can just get rid of the +1s and say Joe Burl warm. And if you're reading that, you're like, okay, so she liked that. She liked what I did there. I don't need to know numbers. I just need to know feelings, right? Okay, is that enough about that? Yeah, I think that's all we're going to do there. And I will try to quickly show you one more system, okay? And this one I haven't really written any text for, but this goes back to John Ingold, who says that he doesn't necessarily like the kind of math that we've been doing so far. The simple plus-minus stuff where we're going up and down really easily. He says that creates too volatile of characters and relationships. It means that every time I do something good, I go good really fast, but then if I do a couple bad things, all of a sudden I'm dropping really quickly. And he wants a different kind of model where the first actions you take are more important and valued than later actions that you take. Because this is more like forming a first impression that kind of settles in place, and then it takes a lot of work later to change that impression. And this is for his character, Phineas Fogg, remember, who's kind of a more proper English gentleman maybe, and then Passepartout is trying to impress him and be a good valet. So if he screws up a bunch at the beginning, Phineas Fogg is going to be disappointed, and then Passepartout later will have to do a lot more work to get his approval back again. To do that, you have to do a little more fancy math. I'm here showing it now, which is all this. It's all this division stuff. Let me pause it here. So you're going to break, instead of saying good, bad, again, you'll have 2 variables, not just one. You'll have good and bad. And then you will divide the number of good things by the total number of decisions that could have been good or bad. Let me just show you real close here. So he's using tension, right? Tension could be tension up or tension down. But let's just translate that into good, bad, because that's what we've been using so far. So for example, right here it says high tension, but for us that would mean like how good am I? What percent good have I done over the course of the game? And to figure that out, you take the number of decisions that were good and you divide them by the total of decisions that were either good or bad. So if there were 3 decisions, and I'll show you. Let me just show you. This will be easier if I actually show you what I'm talking about. These passages here are controlling the 2 variable thing. So we're going to do good and bad things, and it's going to kind of measure the same stuff, but instead of giving me a single point on a spectrum, it's going to give me percentages. Okay. So I can do good or bad. I'm going to do good. I'm going to do good again. I'm going to do good again. And I was 100% good and 0% bad. But if I go back and I do good and I do bad and I do good again, then I was 67% good and 33% bad, right? It's just sort of, and let me show you how that's working behind the scenes. 2 variables, good and bad, both set to 0 at the beginning. Then, if I do something good, good goes up 1. And if I do something bad, bad goes up 1. These variables never go down, okay? These are 2 variables that start out at nothing, and then they go up, and then the other one goes up, and then they go up like that, and then they just always keep going up. And what we're measuring is not, where you are up and down, because nothing ever goes down. What we're measuring is kind of the difference between them. I've been more good than bad, or I've been more bad than good. So we're figuring out the percentile, right? And we do that at the end here with this code. How good have I been? Well, to figure that out, you take the number of good and you divide it by, that's what this little slash is, divided by the stuff in this parentheses, bad plus good. So if there was 1 time when I was bad and 2 times when I was good, there was a total of 3 decisions that could have been bad or good. And 2 of them I was good, so I'm going to get 2 over 3, 2/3. I'm 2/3 good. And the computer is not going to leave that as a fraction. It's going to run that as a division problem and come up with 0.666666666. And if I was 1 time bad, and there were 3 times where I could have been bad or good, then I'm 1/3 bad. And again, it's a fraction of 1/3, but it's going to divide it and say 0.33333333. Then I'm testing for that really simply. If this math, good divided by bad over good, is greater than 0.5, greater than 0.5, not 5, but 0.5, right? If it's greater than 50%, then it says better than half good. And if it's not better than half good, if it's 0.5 or less, then it says not better than half good. I haven't put any story on this because I'm kind of running out of time, and I don't want to make this video take forever. It's probably gone long enough already. But I just wanted to show you that if you want to do a little more advanced math with stuff, and again, this is just fractions, right, and division. But if you want to do that kind of, you can make this matter in different ways. And again, the way that this pays off is that when you've only made 3 decisions, 1 decision is 1/3 of your good-bad meter, or your smart-stupid meter, or whatever else it is that we're measuring here, right? 1 decision is 1/3 of that, so it kind of matters a lot. Each decision matters a lot. Once you get up to 100 decisions, your 100th decision only is 1/100th of the total fraction, right? So your later decisions matter less than your early decisions. And this is exactly what Ingold was talking about when he said he wanted kind of a strong first impression that is sort of sets a stable bar, and then later decisions don't rock that very much. So we're not, approving and disapproving and approving and disapproving. We're just sort of forming an opinion of you, and then you can change that, but it's going to take some work, right? So this is kind of a model for how people think about other people, and it's a more advanced mathematical model for that. Okay, all right, I think that's probably all the talking that I'm going to do. So quick review and then assignment. Quick review is, in this first little piece, we saw how variables can change. You can do a pretty simple leveling up system where, I have a stat for power or strength or charisma or something, and every time I do something that should make me better at that, I can just add 1 to it and go up. Anytime I do something that should make me worse at it, I can get a -1 and go down. Right here, we sort of looked at how to do light side, dark side, good, evil stuff, the way they did in Knights of the Old Republic and other games. And we just had 1 variable called good, bad, and we can add or subtract to it depending on whether the things that we did were good or bad. And we can make consequences based on that in the game. We can make narrative consequences that play out in different ways. We should also think about, in all of these cases, like why we're using the stats we're using. If we're making moral judgments, how are we making them, and how is the moral world of our story shaped? In this system here, we took that similar scale thing, but we just put it in individual characters and their approval or disapproval of the main player character. So it's a more complex moral world. It's about the kinds of people that are around you. And so as you do things, players in your world or characters in your world will either like you or not like you, want to hang out with you more, not want to hang out with you more, give you different kind of opportunities, give you different kinds of attitude, right? Help you or not help you in various ways. We also looked at how to do the display macro, which can bring in code and run it, which is a nice feature if you're going to have a bunch of code every time, giving some kind of feedback to players. It's nice to put it all in one place and not have to type it over and over again every time, or even cut and paste it every time. Because if you have a bug in it, you don't want to change it in every single passage in your game. You want to change it once and then just say display every time you need to use it. And then finally, we just did a little bit more advanced math, showing how you can get percentages instead of a simple up-down meter, in case you want to do what Ingold does, which is have characters that respond quickly, forming an impression, and then slowly change that over time if you work for it. Okay, so that's it. That's a wrap. The assignment, of course, is to take these tools and play with them. Get dynamic variables going, make sure you can add and subtract from variables in different ways, and then try to structure stories where the game is evaluating what players are doing, either in sort of a holistic way with a moral universe that sort of judges and responds to player behavior, or in a more social way where there's characters that are responding to player behavior. And then either with simple addition and subtraction or more advanced kind of fractions and divisions and stuff. Get a handle on all this, as much of it as you can, and then make something cool, okay? And that's it for this time. See you next time. Thanks.